So I quit teaching after 3 months to become a freelance copywriter. And every time I tell the story about this super weird chapter in my life, it honestly feels like a villain origin story. Hey, I'm Carrie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the very first time. All around, welcome. I'm Carrieblogger, a career freelancer on Fiverr.com, where I have been selling as a Fiverr Pro verified copywriter for about the past 9 years. And in today's Freelance Friday video, I am giving you my origin story, my how the heck I got here story, from the path that I was on of becoming a music teacher to becoming this weirdly successful, six-figure earning, love my job, love my life, career freelancer. And I always call myself a career freelancer because often freelance feels like a fill the gaps thing. It feels like a thing that you're just doing because you couldn't get a regular job. But in all reality, over the past 9 years, what I have really built is a career with a sustainable income that I absolutely love, but with the flexibility of being freelance and doing it all for myself and by myself and with myself and for myself, and it's all me. But before we get into that, we have to announce this week's Blogger of the Week. And if you would like to be the Blogger of the Week, just like Deb D, all you have to do is drop a comment down below and you may get picked. So how did I get here? We're scrolling all the way back to 2004 to 4th grade. I decided that I was going to grow up and be a music teacher, a high school band director to be specific. And no joke, the decision was made in 4th grade and my heart was set on it. In high school, I conducted the middle school band. I was a TA for the AP music theory class. I was a student director in a private choir, and I was also a student teacher of sorts for a music theory class. Oh, and I was also a private oboe teacher. My life revolved 1000% around music. It was the core of my identity, and I literally took every opportunity I could to gain teaching experience and build my resume and get prepared for college. Then I went straight into college and started my undergraduate degree as a music education major. And because I was so well prepared and I knew exactly where I was going, I actually had enough credits from AP classes in high school that I finished an entire year of coursework for my undergraduate degree, and I was able to finish in 3 years. I chopped an entire year off of my undergrad because I was so set on where I was going and I didn't want to waste any time, which is a little unfortunate, honestly, because I love academia. I love learning. I would be a full-time student for the rest of my life if I could get away with it. I discovered Fiverr.com during this time, during my 2nd year of college, and I created an account back in 2013. I didn't have any high hopes for it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I thought, hey, I can do this. At the time, I had a personal blog that I had been posting to every single day for more than a year, and I've always been a very strong writer. I've always loved writing, and it's an area that I've excelled in. Writing and reading and language have always been my jam. Plus, I've always loved to write, but also to research and to dig into new topics and to learn new things. And just personality-wise, I knew that that would be a strength of mine. It would be something exciting to do. A couple weeks in, maybe 4 to 6 weeks in, it was literally overnight when I was back at my parents' house for winter break, and I was featured on Fiverr's homepage, which is not something that will ever happen anymore because of how the site is designed. But back then, every single person who landed on Fiverr.com, the homepage, saw me, saw my gig, and I was overwhelmed. Literally overnight, I had 30 plus orders in my queue. And those orders turned into reviews, turned into repeat clients, turned into more traction, and it snowballed into something weirdly sustainable and lovely. I slowly raised my prices as I became better as a writer, as I learned more what the heck I was doing, how to manage client relationships, and I kind of learned along the way and adjusted prices accordingly. I actively kept a lid on my freelance work and really prioritized school because still I wanted to pay for my degree. This was an amazing earning opportunity that I didn't have before, but I still had a set goal of eventually graduating, eventually becoming a teacher, and eventually stopping this weird freelance work that I only saw as a side hustle to pay for school. So as planned on my schedule, I finished my undergraduate degree in 3 years. And then I started my master's program 3 weeks later. All in. My Fiverr work continued through graduate school, but at a slightly lower volume, and I actively even more kept a lid on things because this very intensive, very time-consuming 1-year program just would not allow me to work as much freelance work as I had during my undergraduate degree, when all of a sudden I was in evening courses and I was student teaching all day long. Of course, one of the biggest differences between freelancing and teaching, besides the obvious, is taxes. To help with that, let's talk about today's video sponsor, More Than Taxes, an Evolution Tax Center company. More Than Taxes takes a proactive approach to help freelancers maximize deductions, write off their expenses, and get bigger refunds. Freelance taxes are super confusing, but More Than Taxes helps freelancers take full advantage of the benefits they deserve. Click on the link in the pinned comment or description down below to download their free freelance tax guide with the top 4 things you should definitely know. And thanks again to More Than Taxes for sponsoring this video. Back to the origin story. During graduate school, I started to get really burnt out and really frustrated with basically everything. I hated the disconnect between what I was learning in classes with my professors of how they said things should theoretically go and look and function and be in a classroom versus how it actually went when you were in a classroom with kids. Not to mention the world of music already feels so far removed from traditional school curriculum. And so trying to fit my lesson plan for a high school band rehearsal into the same model and format and goal system as like a sophomore English lesson, it was so frustrating, it was so challenging, and I felt like my professors just kind of had no clue what they were talking about. And again, as a person who really likes clear-cut answers, that was super frustrating. All of the things I loved, like planning, prepping, creating, polishing, those things went out the window as my teachers literally told me in real life, not collegiate professors, to not plan. And then all the things that I personally struggled with, like managing behavior, building relationships, commanding a room, just adapting to change. Those things were the entire focus that were being forced on me. Less than halfway through my student teaching period, I remember that I was about to step up to the podium. It was my turn to take on the other half of the class and do my lesson. And I literally just turned around and walked out of the room. And I said, "You do your thing, I need a minute." And I was on the verge of a panic attack. I was standing in the hallway, trying to get my breathing under control, trying to stop crying, trying to hide from literal high schoolers who were walking by me going like, what the hell is going on with her? And it was so hard to just get myself back under control because I wasn't exactly even sure what I was so stressed and worried about. I just knew that I needed a break. The second half of the school year was spent student teaching at a middle school, which I was even less comfortable with. Still, things went fine. I got really great feedback. My supervisor, who was supposed to come in all the time, literally would just skip supervisions and say, "You're fine. I don't need to worry about you. There are so many other people who are struggling so much more. You're doing good." And I would hear that and I would realize, if I feel this way and I'm so uncomfortable and I'm having such a hard time, and there are people who are struggling more, there are people who are like failing on paper more, then I must be okay, right? Then it came time to apply for jobs. And do you know how many high school band director positions were open at this time in the state of Oregon? 2. The first one was already de facto filled. Literally everyone knew about it. They had to post the job, but no one was going to get it. The second one was what I thought was my dream job. I was willing to cross the state for it. I was also applying for middle school band positions. I was also applying for mixed band choir elementary jobs, and I didn't get any of them. Partially, I think that the people interviewing me probably saw through my forced optimism, my very much acting smile, trying to convince them and myself that I could do this. But the other side of the coin that I experienced was blatant sexism. I received comments that I should have worn a skirt instead of pants, advice that I needed to wear a nice set of pearls and put my hair up in curls. I was also asked in interviews how my feminine voice was going to be loud enough to command a room. And I got questions about like how I would fit into the district's culture with all male music teachers in the district. In one particular case, an interview panelist actually told me privately after the fact, after I didn't get the job, that everyone on the panel agreed that I was the most qualified for the position and that they wanted to hire me, but the principal overruled their votes and ultimately hired a man because she wanted a stronger male presence in the room that I simply could not offer as a woman. So that was extremely frustrating because I was both not feminine enough and not masculine enough and just not enough of whoever they wanted me to be. Even worse though was that I didn't want any of the jobs anyway. I wanted a job. I wanted to succeed. More than anything, I just really wanted to get out of this soul-crushing process of getting my hopes up, convincing myself that this could be it, and then ultimately being crushed. A few weeks before graduation with our master's degree, another music teacher in our cohort named Susie announced that she was quitting. She was going to technically graduate, but she wasn't going to get her teaching license. She wasn't going to finish the accreditation tests, and she was not going to look for a job. And the shock and judgment and mean comments that radiated through our group was baffling. And honestly, I am not proud to say many of them came from me as well. Just no one could imagine how she could possibly get to the end of this process and just change plans, to just give up, was essentially how everyone saw it. That she had failed to find her fit, she had failed to find a job, she was failing. And as I echoed those same comments, I realized that I saw myself that way too. I was so afraid of failing, of giving up, of forcing out of what this plan was supposed to look like. My husband and I moved back to our hometown during the summer, and I ended up getting a part-time job at an elementary school. It was actually the one I went to as a kid. So I was going to be teaching elementary music 2 days a week. It was not a job that I was really qualified for. I had only taken one class in my undergraduate program about elementary music techniques. I talked a good talk about how fun it was going to be and how this was just going to be like a stepping stone. But I was so... I don't know. But at least I still had my Fiverr work. That was the other thing I told myself. And still, I couldn't make sense of the fact that I loved my freelance work. I still loved what I was doing, and I was earning like quadruple the pay that I was earning as a teacher. So again, in my elementary music classroom, I was so frustrated with how things in theory did not match up with reality. I knew how to lesson plan. I knew how to create beautiful activities with structured differentiation. I had the engagement strategies. I had things that the kids should have loved on paper. And then they were ripping things off the walls, screaming obscenities, literally peeing their pants in protest, breaking the materials that I had tried so hard to create. Teachers were literally dragging them through the door and then turning as quickly as they could to shut the door behind them so that they could leave, and the child was trapped in my classroom. And I was supposed to just make it work. And again, reality, theory, not working. And more than anything, these at-risk kids in this Title I school just needed way more love and patience and support than I could give them, because I barely had enough for myself. I was depressed at this time, something that I didn't really realize in the moment. I had a chronic headache, I was gaining weight, I fell asleep on the couch every day after school, and I was so embarrassed and self-conscious about how things were going that I secluded myself, and I just wanted to avoid at all costs the chit chat with people saying, how's work going? How's life going? Haven't heard from you in a while. Oh, I heard you got a job. I couldn't do it. I couldn't make that small talk, and I just shut myself away. And all I could think about was how everyone reacted to Susie when she quit and she failed and gave up, and I didn't want them to say the same things about me. But just 3 months into the school year, I had a full-blown can't breathe, cannot function, cannot continue panic attack in my classroom at lunch. I barely managed to drag myself to the principal's office, and literally through sobbing tears told her that I had to go home and I could not make it through the rest of the day. Then I took my handful of sick days that I had and I submitted formal resignation with the district, and I essentially taught 2 goodbye days of just watching Christmas movies and saying goodbye. And I think one of the hardest blows for my ego was to hear through the grapevine of gossip within the band director community that one of my supervising teachers was just telling everyone blatantly that she knew I was going to quit. She knew I wasn't cut out for it. She knew I was never going to hack it. And all I could think was, if she was so sure that I wasn't going to make it, why didn't she tell me? It was so frustrating to me that she couldn't be honest with me. But the bigger truth was that I was never honest with myself, because ultimately I know what my skills are. I know what my personality is. I know what makes me most comfortable, and I know what brings me joy. And yet the social expectations and the self-assigned commitment, mission, whatever, dragged me away from all of those truths. Literally, my dream job was right here the whole time since my second year of college, and I just had to wait so long to give myself the freedom to let go and just dive into it. So if you're at a point in your life where you feel like you're set on a track that's either going nowhere or you're set on a track that is going in the wrong direction, it's not too late to make a change. When you give yourself the freedom to just say, no, this isn't right for me, then that's when you can finally take control and start living the life that is. Because it felt like too late to quit after my bachelor's degree. It felt like too late to quit when I had my master's. And then I had to get a job. And then I had a job. And how could I quit then? And imagine if I was still there 6 years later, repeating that same cycle to myself of it's too late, I've put in too much, I can't stop now. So my biggest final life advice, or however you want to sum this up, is just that it's never going to feel like the perfect time to make a hard decision like this. But in reality, today is the moment when you need to start, because you owe it to yourself to do what's right for you. If you're still watching, you know that you are my actual hero. Thank you so much for being here. You can find some links to things I've got going on in the pinned comment and description down below, including the upcoming release of my dystopian sci-fi novel called Without Disruption. In a futuristic utopia that guarantees mild contentment for everyone in the lifestyle of your choice, our protagonist is still depressed and adrift. Look at this beautiful cover. I'm obsessed. So you can join my pre-order waitlist and learn more at carriefrenchauthor.com. And remember, now more than ever, you are worth so much more than your workload. But let's get back to work.